I never thought I'd share something so deeply personal, but I need to get this off my chest. Maybe hearing it from a different perspective will help confirm what I've come to accept. My wife and I have been married for 5 years. Our relationship was always built on trust, mutual respect, and open communication, or so I believed. That belief was challenged 7 months ago when she told me something that nearly shook the core of our marriage. At the time, she was 4 months pregnant with our first child, a baby boy we had been dreaming about for over a year. We were overjoyed when we found out we were expecting, and everything about the pregnancy had gone smoothly. As we began thinking of names, I suggested one that honored my grandfather, who had raised me after my father left. My wife seemed to like the idea, and I thought we were on the same page. Then, one evening over dinner, she quietly asked, "What do you think about the name Tyler?" There was something in her voice I couldn't quite place. I paused to consider it. It wasn't a bad name, but before I could answer, she admitted something that blindsided me. It was my ex's name. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "You want to name our son after your ex-boyfriend?" I asked, probably more harshly than I intended. The idea seemed absurd, almost insulting. My thoughts raced. Was she still in love with him? Had they been talking? Why would she want to name our child after someone from her past? She simply said, "It's important to me," but offered no further explanation. And from then on, our usual open conversations became tense and guarded. I kept asking why, but she would shut down or cry, and I was left with a growing pit of confusion and frustration. Family and friends noticed the tension, though I was too ashamed to tell them the reason. Eventually, my mom invited us over, probably trying to ease whatever she sensed between us. During dinner, she casually asked about baby names, and my wife instantly replied, "Tyler." When my mom asked why, all my wife said was, "It has special meaning to me." That night, I finally snapped. On the way home, I told her that this wasn't just her child and that I deserved to understand why she was so fixated on that name. She pulled over, turned to me, eyes filled with tears, and told me the truth. "Tyler saved my life," she said. "And he's gone." She told me about a time in her life I had never known in detail, about Tyler, her college boyfriend. They had dated for almost a year when he was diagnosed with leukemia. Even as his health deteriorated, he stayed hopeful, determined to fight. She stood by him through everything, the treatments, the pain, the emotional toll. Then one night, after a hospital visit, they were driving home when a truck ran a red light and sped toward them. In a split second, Tyler yanked the steering wheel so the truck would hit his side instead of hers. He was killed instantly. She survived with minor injuries. The investigation confirmed what she already knew: he had sacrificed himself to save her. And what broke me was hearing that just a few weeks after the crash, doctors discovered that Tyler's cancer had progressed too far. He might have had only a few months left anyway. Yet, even knowing that, in his final moment, he chose her life over his own. She had never told anyone the full story before. The grief had been too heavy. Meeting me had given her a reason to move forward. But now, with a child on the way, she felt a deep pull to honor the man who had made her life possible, the man who made our family possible. I spent days trying to come to terms with what she'd shared. I needed to know more, so I looked into it. I found old articles about the accident and learned more about Tyler than I ever expected. He had been a good man, kind, generous, volunteering at a children's hospital even while battling cancer himself. A few days later, I asked my wife to meet me for lunch. When she arrived, I gave her a small box. Inside was a custom-made keychain engraved with the name, Tyler. Her hands shook as she held it. "I've been thinking," I said. "Tyler's a great name for our son." She broke down in tears, grateful, overwhelmed. "Are you sure?" "What about your grandfather's name?" she asked. I smiled. "We'll use it as his middle name. Tyler James." "It sounds right." Something shifted between us after that. She opened up more, sharing stories about Tyler, not all sad, some even funny. Hearing them, I felt like I was finally beginning to understand parts of her I hadn't known. And instead of feeling jealous, I felt proud, of her strength, her compassion, her ability to carry love through pain. 2 months later, when our son was born, I was the one who filled out the birth certificate. Writing down his name felt natural. My wife cried when she saw it, but this time, the tears were healing. Not long after, we visited my grandfather so he could meet his namesake. Watching him cradle little Tyler was like watching history come full circle. When I told him the story behind the name, he listened quietly before saying, "That young man had character. Your boy's got big shoes to fill, but with you two raising him, I think he'll be just fine." Then yesterday, we got a surprise package from Tyler's parents. My wife had reached out to them after our son was born. Inside was a beautiful handmade baby blanket and a heartfelt letter. They thanked us for keeping their son's memory alive and said they hope to meet our little boy someday. We're planning a visit next month. My wife is nervous, but I can see she's ready to bring the past and present together in a way that honors everyone. This journey hasn't been easy. There were moments when my own doubts almost took over. But I'm glad I chose to listen instead of react. Our son may carry the name of someone I never met, but when I hold him, I don't see my wife's past, I see our future. Love isn't always simple. Sometimes it stretches across time, linking us to people we've lost, to sacrifices made, and to memories that shaped us. One day, when our son is old enough, I'll tell him the story of his name, not because his mother couldn't move on, but because some people are worth remembering. And as I write this now, with one hand resting on my sleeping son, I know that to be true.